The theme for December is Living Everyday Wonder, Community. The topic for today is Into We See. Our inspired reading for today is by Richard Rohr from his book Falling Upward. Like any true mirror, the gaze of God receives us exactly as we are, without judgment or distortion, subtraction or addition. Such perfect receiving is what transforms us. Being totally received as we truly are is what we want and long for all our lives. All we can do is receive and return the loving gaze of God every day, and afterwards we will be internally free and deeply happy at the same time. Let's affirm together with deep feeling. I see spirit in everyone I meet. Thank you. And now I see the divine in Reverend Kathleen.
Living Everyday Wonder Community. What a great way to end the year with this topic. And community. Community we have been talking about so far this year is a structure of belonging. And it begins with the family, the biological family, a structure of belonging and nurturing. And then it takes us through all different forms that in this society, in this culture, and other cultures around the world. And of course, our spiritual community is another aspect of community. And it goes all the way through the culture of the country to the culture of the world, the community of one global family. So as powerful co-creators, we each play a vital part in the character and the quality of our community. As we bring a sense of wonder to our community experience, the quality of community is elevated. When we live in those powerful questions. For instance, let me illustrate. I wonder what might happen if I actively seek to know as many people as possible in the community and get to know what their talents and abilities are. I wonder what would happen if we all brought our gifts and talents into full expression in our spiritual community. Or I wonder what would happen, what we could accomplish as a result, how much richer our lives would be. How might this support our spiritual evolution and help us solve not only our personal challenges, but the challenges on the planet? I wonder how we can all grow beyond our tendency to hang out with people we already know. I wonder how to inspire our community, to step outside their comfort zone and connect with somebody new. We've talked about this before, right? But when we live in wonder, what we do is we activate something within ourselves. We put ourselves in contact with the great universal mind and where all solutions come from. And therefore, we grow in consciousness, and we bring forth a greater sense of connection, a greater sense of community, and a greater sense of this idea of community and what community is all about. So, the thing to be aware of is, as we do this, as we become curious and wonder about each individual in our community and each new person that comes into our community, what we're doing is we're opening ourselves up to diversity, to the diversity of life. And we're bringing more diversity into our community. And after all, our diverse world is a wonderful gift. Yes? A wonderful gift. So today, the topic is Into We See. And many of you may have been around when James Twyman created a movie called Into Me See. Anybody around at that time? That was in the very early days of maybe around 2005 or so. And the whole point of that movie was that intimacy takes place with with the awareness of the importance of having authentic communication with others. So that's a one-on-one kind of thing. So if we expand it to Into We See, we're talking about having a more intimate, authentic conversation with people in community. And it's up-leveled when we realize that everyone that we meet is the divine in expression. It raises it to a whole new level. So seeing the wholeness of the one life in all of humanity and in each other is a really powerful shift that up-levels the quality of our communications and our connection. So we can train ourselves to do this. We can train ourselves to remember that when I am meeting someone and looking into their eyes, that I am seeing the divine in this amazing, unique expression. And so, I was just thinking, this. It seems simple in some ways, and we can maybe see how this up levels the quality of our community. But also, when we see the divine, what we're seeing is a being of infinite, unlimited potential and possibility that has not only gifts that they are aware of, but many latent gifts they might not even be aware of, many latent capacities. And so when we look at it from that standpoint, think of the things that we can accomplish in our own personal lives and on the lives of the planet from that perspective. So today I'm going to bring this topic into fruition, greater fruition, through talking about practicing inclusivity, diversity, and in the giving we receive. Those are my three major points. So the first one, practicing inclusivity. I came across the story of a woman named Corinne who didn't have much experience with people of differing abilities until her 6-year-old made friends with a 6-year-old next door. And the 6-year-old had a 10-year-old sister who was in a wheelchair. And not only was she in a wheelchair, but she couldn't speak, she couldn't feed herself, and she couldn't dress herself. And so when Corinne went over with her 6-year-old daughter and met the girl, the 10-year-old girl, she was a little uncomfortable. She didn't know what to do. So the mother said, just speak to her the same way you speak to any child. Just do that. And so Corinne did that, and over time, she started making connection. And when she would show up, the girl in the wheelchair would smile. She would reach out or maybe laugh, and then they kept developing a relationship over time. And then something happened over the years. As the girl in the wheelchair grew up, she was able to use some of the updated technologies that helped her communicate better. And so she used this in her high school, And something really happened once she started using the technology to communicate with the teacher and the other students, is her circle of friendships began to widen. And so, we see this often when technology has really afforded some opportunities for people who were not able to communicate and connect before. And that the same thing also happens with people with hearing disorders. That sometimes people assume by their quiet demeanor that they may not be interested, or may have dementia, or they may lack intelligence. But when that person receives a hearing aid or an implant and is finally able to hear, again, it's common for relationships to miraculously transform. And the point is, we don't need to wait until those things happen. We can begin to connect with everyone, no matter where they come from, how they show up, just as they are. And so that was the powerful message that I got from this particular story. So think about the people who are in your circle, those you connect with on a regular basis, including in the spiritual community. Who is missing from your circle? Who is missing from your circle? In other words, how can you more fully practice inclusivity so that diversity is more fully reflected in your relationships and in the spiritual community as a whole? So last week, I spoke about the value of inviting others to participate in your teams and ministries, or even just to come to service, to give people a call and say, hey, just come on, come to service. So in doing these things, that's one of the ways, but there are other ways. And I'm sure if you live in a state of wonder, like how can I more fully connect, you will be guided as to what is yours to do. That's practicing inclusivity. The next one is diversity. Stephen Hawking, many of you know who Stephen Hawking is, right? So it's amazing. I saw him do a whole TV show, from using his device to communicate. He spoke at the 2012 opening ceremony of the Paralympic Games in London. And this is what he said. He said, "We are all different. There is no such thing as a standard or run-of-the-mill human being, but we share the same human spirit." So diversity then is a human attribute. Why? Because everything in life is a unique individualization of the one source. Everything is unique. And so diversity is actually part of who we are. And the thing is mass media and the internet have helped us, maybe exposed us to the kaleidoscope of diversity across the planet and have informed us. I know it's really helped me a lot in gaining greater understanding and awareness. And there's been a greater movement as well, books and such to deepen in our understanding of each other. And so we've been given the gift of this great diversity of humanity and have discovered the importance of stepping up and supporting human rights of our diverse population in the workplace, at home, and in our communities. A great stride in that direction took place this past Thursday. The U.S. Congress passed the Respect for Marriage Act to protect same-sex and interracial marriages. And Nancy Pelosi said this. She said, "Today we stand up for the values that the vast majority of Americans hold dear, a belief in dignity, beauty, and divinity, a spark of divinity in every person, and an abiding respect for love so powerful that it binds two people together." So through this act, the federal government recognizes marriages that were validly performed and it guarantees full benefits regardless of the couple's sex, race, ethnicity, or national origin. A great example of diversity being supported. So one of the statements in the Centers for Spiritual Living Global Vision, that's the big organization that we belong to. We are part of the Centers for Spiritual Living. One of the statements in the Global Vision is, we envision a world where every person has enough food, a home, a sense of belonging, a world of peace and harmony, enfranchisement, and justice. So that's in the vision of our greater community, that thing which shows up in our messages and are things that we support in the world. So the final thing is in the giving we receive, and I'd like to talk a little bit about the nativity scene. So the nativity scene traditionally is viewed as the celebration of the birth of Jesus, who became the Christ. And in New Thought, in Science of Mind, what we do is we tend to realize that there are many levels of looking at these teaching stories. One of them is historical. Another way of looking at it is, what's the moral behind it? And then there's a third, and the third is, what is the metaphysical meaning? What does it tell us about our own individual spiritual journey? Or what does it tell us about our collective spiritual journey? And so that's what I'm going to focus on today. Because when we look for the symbols, the metaphysical symbols, and metaphysical means beyond the physical, so we're looking at the spiritual meaning behind these stories, we see it as a celebration of the light of the divine within each person. And that is expressed in the exalted ones from all ages and all spiritual traditions. It might be known as Christ consciousness, Buddha consciousness, Atman, self-realization, cosmic consciousness. Are there others that are universal consciousness? Any others that you've thought of from different traditions? Oneness consciousness? Yeah, so unity, divine unity, the merging of the divine, the mystic marriage is another one I've heard. Each element of the nativity scene illustrates what is required in order to embody this state of consciousness, to express the state of consciousness, to express the light of the divine within. And for example, the three kings, or the magi, represent the value of giving and receiving, and the recognition that we are all gifts of the Spirit. We all are gifted. We all are gifts. Shepherds represent the loving presence, guiding and guarding that loving presence within us. The sheep represent the absence of fear. The manger represents the animal life of the body, in which new life, the child, or Christ consciousness, is manifested. Mary and Joseph represent the mother-father energy within us, the masculine and feminine principles, which are shown in our Science of Mind symbol that I have here, and that is over here. And this is actually a symbol of the creative process. The masculine is at the top. That's the new idea, the new inspiration. The center section is the feminine principle, which is the subconscious mind, the creative medium that brings it into new form and new expression. You can see all of these elements of the nativity represent this aspect of ourselves. And then finally, the star represents a consciousness that is illuminated. The nativity also represents community. Think about this. This is the first time I've really thought about this. the family, those with material wealth, which is the kings, those with very little, the shepherds. The diversity of humanity is represented by all of them combined. And so the sacred teachings, like the birth of Jesus, the story of the birth of Jesus, contain codes, spiritual codes, or principles within them that support us along the path of enlightenment. Now I have a tickle in my throat. Excuse me. Could somebody get me a glass of water? Thank you. Thank you very much. I promise I don't have a cold. Just a little bit of postnasal drip. Okay. And so for today's purposes, I wanted to focus on the act of giving and receiving, represented by the three kings. And in particular, the amazing phenomenon that when we do give of ourselves by being willing to have a genuine conversation with someone, we are also instantaneously receiving the gift of community, the gift of connection, the gift of love and joy and peace. And so I wanted to conclude with another piece of the CSL Global Vision. We envision a world in which we live and grow as one global family that respects and honors the interconnectedness of all life, a world where this kinship with all life prospers and connects through the guidance of spiritual wisdom and experience. Now, these are just pieces of that global vision that apply today. And every time I read one of those, I am so inspired and I'm so grateful to be a part of this greater community. So our personal sense of who we call community may be rooted in, and it could be unconsciously, in whatever we grew up with. You know, however, and it can be very limiting. However, when we consciously choose to connect with others, when we consciously choose to make that connection, and we choose to see the presence of spirit in everyone that we meet, then miracles start taking place within us. Our eyes open, our minds expand. And we begin to see that everyone and everything around us is an amazing, unique, beautiful individualization of the one source. Can you feel that? The beauty of that and the grace of that? I'm getting God bumps just thinking about it. And what happens then is our circle expands and our awareness expands. So what I'd like you to do now is to breathe and stretch and yawn. We're going to do a little neuroscience to help us retain what's important for us to retain. Turn within, close your eyes. And then ask yourself, what is a way in which I can more fully widen my circle my community, my sense of community? Listen deeply and reverently. And when you're ready, turn to someone next to you. It could be one person or two other people, and share a way in which you can widen your circle of connection. Go ahead and So it is in the giving of our genuine interest in others that we receive the amazing gift of community. And so it is. Namaste, my friends.